Tonight we feature this very engaging conversation with Kartemquin Films. It's a great honor for ION India to be partnering with an organization like Kartemquin. It provides a great learning experience for us and to discuss this very important issue that affects the subcontinent. I met Dinesh about a year ago, and we talked about what he's going to present today, and I don't want to reveal too much about it. But I was very inspired and just in awe of the courage he had to share this very personal story with all of us and with the community at large. And it's conversations like this that are so needed and so urgent in their nature that we as ION India felt that we should do as much as possible to get the word out for this amazing documentary that gets released in January. Dinesh is a filmmaker with Kartemquin. He's a student of the University of Chicago. This is his first independent venture to make a film on his own. He's travels a lot. He's been to Haiti, India, all over to make films. And it's with great pleasure I introduce Dinesh, and he'll tell you more about what we have for you this afternoon.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Yeah? Cheers. Yes. Hey, so thank you all for coming out. It's a real pleasure and honor to be part of ION India this year, even though the film's not done yet, which, it's cool just to see that there are people who want to see what we're putting together. So thank you all for coming out, and thank you to the Indo-American Heritage Museum, who's co-sponsoring this event with Kartemquin. I think it's really great to have an audience of South Asians, Indian Americans, to talk about some of this stuff, even before the film is done. And then lastly, it's really cool to be at the Logan Center. I went here like a long time ago, and we did not have a building like this. It was a little scrappier, but it's cool to be in this space. So thank you to all of that. I just want to, what we're going to be doing tonight, I'm going to show you 3 clips from the work in progress. So we're a ways from being done, but I wanted to show you 3 different clips from different parts of the film that really highlight both the story of the film as well as some of the issues that we address. Not to talk too long, but basically my parents passed away when I was pretty young. And I made it to adulthood not really knowing who they were. So I had just a ton of questions. So I kind of started this journey a few years ago of kind of going and interviewing my siblings, interviewing extended family members, really just trying to piece together the story of my parents' lives, to kind of figure out who they were. Because I think that would help answer a lot of questions that I was asking about kind of who I was. And I always knew that that my mother suffered from schizophrenia, and she passed away. She actually committed suicide. But along the way, I kind of uncovered this really pernicious history of mental illness on that side of the family. So kind of as this very personal journey kind of continued, it got kind of bigger than just my family. And so the idea of making a documentary to kind of tell this story, to have conversations like these, seemed just very natural. It seemed very not only it just seemed very like something we should do. That these were conversations that we need to have in our community. So I'm going to start with the first clip, which I shot by myself very early on in the process, and you can tell because the production values are not that great. So forgive the shakiness of the camera. But in this clip, I'm actually visiting India with my Masi, my sister, my mother's younger sister, And we're in this village where my grandparents live, or where my grandmother lives. My grandfather's passed away. But we're kind of in their house, and we kind of discover this in the bottom of a closet, this old box of letters and photographs. And I sit down with her, and we kind of just start talking. And we're able to kind of visit a couple of issues. So if I can figure this out.
So the old photographs.
So where did you find them?
Yes, I'm just trying to see if I find some, you know. Oh, this is your mom. I think 91 and 90, she got into painting. So that's how you remember your mom?
This is exactly how I remember my mother. I remember that shirt. This was around the time that she...
That's the last photograph, I believe.
Yeah.
Because of her, this mental illness, she was having many illusions and delusions about your dad, and used to suspect like he's having an affair and things like that.
Yeah.
He used to get mad. He did have a little bit the anger problem. She used to suspect him, and that used to trigger his anger, and then maybe something used to happen, and basically that vicious cycle went on.
I've heard enough from enough people to know that I think maybe my dad hit my mother at times.
I didn't want to say that.
And
Yeah, no, maybe.
That's a lot to kind of ingest. Maybe we can take a little break. I need to change my tape.
Yes, okay.
And then we can maybe go
But
on.
whatever is in your mind, and you analyze it, you were very young, so I'm asking like how you remember your mom if you...
I don't really remember her so well. I have maybe like a slideshow of her, just images, images and moments with her.
Mm-hmm.
I was the youngest, and so there was a period where, of about a year, where everybody would go to school except me, and I would stay home with her.
Yes.
And I have some memories of just spending those afternoons with her.
Is any last memory, anything like...
Like a final memory? That's it. Yeah.
See, because we don't think this is a final memory.
Yeah.
It's alive and it's flowing,
Sure.
So it's not a movie or it's a story.
Yeah, you don't...
So you didn't know
Yeah.
when you came from the school, three of you, like,
Yeah.
you'll find her like that.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, that was from pretty early on in the process, and you can tell and we'll get into this with the panel later, but you can tell there's a lot of hesitance on my family's part to talk, as well as my own. There are questions that I'm just kind of very timid about asking. Later in the process, you're probably wondering about my dad. He actually passed away due to natural causes. He had stomach cancer. And he passed away in November of 1991. A month later is when my mother commits suicide. But this second clip I'm going to show you is from later in the film, when I go and I dig up a guy who used to work with my dad. He actually came here. He was one of the first Indians to come here in the 60s to study, like so many of us in our families. He came and studied nuclear chemistry at University of Arkansas, which I'm not actually 100% sure what nuclear chemistry is, but he studied it for several decades and researched it and taught it. But I find this guy who knew him in school, and who they were close collaborators and just really good friends, and they knew each other so well. And so I went and visited. He lives in Missouri now. And I went down to visit him with the crew this time, so you can tell that the footage is a little better. I went and visited him just to kind of get a sense of you know, who my father was.
Hey, what's up, sister? Can you hear me?
Yeah. How are you?
Pretty good. You know, today's Father's Day.
Yeah, today's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you. So I'm actually driving down to Missouri.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're gonna go shoot with Dr. Manuel. You know, Dr. Manuel knew our dad so well, and he was kind of around for like several decades.
Yeah. He'll probably try to make the point about the sun being made of iron and that being a reason that there's no such thing as climate change.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've talked to him on the phone like twice, and he's managed to bring it up both times. And I think like once we put the camera on him, he's just gonna kind of go at it. I haven't seen Dr. Manuel in over 20 years. He and my dad did research together, and I want to get a sense of what that was, and hopefully a sense of who my father was. Hey, how are you?
Come here.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, come back here now. What's that license plate say?
Effie's son.
All astronomers and astrophysicists knew the sun was mostly iron
Mm-hmm.
until 1945.
Okay,
You know
yeah.
that?
You were telling me this on the phone, yeah.
I was 8 years old when Hiroshima was vaporized.
Hmm.
What your father and I worked on was rediscovering what the hell they knew
Mm-hmm.
that they decided to hide after Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed.
Yeah.
And people were trying to shut us up.
Hmm. Yeah,
Life's weird.
totally.
Your daddy was very good in teaching me some wisdom from the East. I was hungry for that. Your daddy also has a very keen analytical mind. He was great in science. He was my closest ally in science. Far and away. We thought alike. And if we had dad that disagreed with what everyone thought was the truth, well, we might figure out something. So looky here. Oh.
Dinesh Sabu.
These very primitive meteorites contain two distinct components which cannot be explained by any process within the meteorite. And at that time, we didn't know what was going on. Let me get here. Oh my gosh. See, your daddy had a sense of humor.
How's that?
Mass fractionation, neon only has 3 isotopes. One of them is absolutely unimportant. It's very, very small. So we'll just say 2 isotopes, neon 20, neon 22. Neon 22 is 10% heavier in mass than neon 20. Okay?
Okay.
If you just mass fractionate neon, you get everything along this mass fractionation line. But the scientific community, starting from the 60s, called one of them neon A, then they called another one neon B, then they had another one neon C, they had another one neon D, they had another one neon E, and your daddy and I are making fun of them, and so we published papers on the neon alphabet game. And we showed every data point that they had, we could explain by simple mass fractionation.
Oh, there it is, the neon alphabet game.
Yeah, and then we published a full paper.
Sure.
Give us data, we were happy as a pig in mud.
It's hard for me to care so much about the science, you know? It's hard for me to really... I mean, Dr. Manuel devoted his life to this stuff, and it wasn't just like one crazy theory or one interpretation of data. Like, they really kind of labored at this very stubbornly for decades. But actually, to be honest, hearing Dr. Manuel, I wonder if my dad was like a crackpot, you know? It's like, my dad was a crackpot scientist. I had to consider it at least, you know? One way of looking at it is like, I never realized what a passionate guy my dad was about these things. You know, like he really, when he believed something, he believed it, you know? So.
It's fun to figure out something. The joy of making a discovery. Wow.
Do you think that, like, when my mother started having problems, like, kind of one way he dealt with it is by, like, throwing himself more into his work and just, because, you know, things at home were pretty tough, and so, like...
That could have been. But I know he also had a business on the side. I mean, he was, by then he was into the jewel business, and...
Well, he must have dealt with an enormous level of frustration. Because science didn't go the way it should have gone, the way what we thought it was.
Yeah.
His wife was mentally ill. In fact, I admired him. How could he deal with this situation without losing his temper? Because that wouldn't have been my style. But I never saw him lose his temper.
I know it's really difficult to talk about, but I want to hear kind of how you guys learned about his death. And then...
he called and said goodbye on the phone.
So did you know he was sick? Or
Yeah, he called. Well, you knew it.
Yeah,
But
he
he
had
had
told us,
stomach cancer.
but we had no idea that it was, how serious it was. But I remember he made a comment to me about maybe it's eating all those hot peppers, because he had stomach cancer, and at the time I thought it was a joke.
Sure. It sounds like a joke.
Yeah. I think he was joking, because
Yeah.
I think even when he called to say goodbye, I think he was saying a joke. I mean,
Do you remember what that conversation was like?
well, I don't know. We talked about trivial things, and then he said, you know, I'm just calling to say goodbye. But, you know, I didn't really think it was goodbye, and it was goodbye, because in about, I don't know, a month later he died, so.
Yeah. And I don't think I really knew what was going on. I mean, I was
You were
6,
so
and
little.
I don't think I really fully understood death. But I remember just being really, really scared.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I think I used to hold a lot against my dad. I don't think I even realized just how angry I was. You know, he never really said bye to us. Not like we could have really understood it if he said bye. Like at least Caroline and Dr. Manuel, they got a phone call. I guess I can forgive him. Holding my father's death against him was just something that a kid would do, because you don't understand that, you know, people get cancer, people die. And I think I've kind of come to that realization. But I think, like, I don't know if I really forgive my mom. I mean, forgiveness isn't this, like, switch you turn. Part of me still thinks, like, the fact that my mother, like took her own life, part of me just can't let go. Part of me can't say that's okay.
So yeah, that's it's kind of the middle part of my journey where, you know, I'm a little more open to asking questions, and I'm getting a lot of great answers. You know, one thing I should mention, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, you know, my siblings are actually really all over this film. The clips I've decided to show you tonight, they're actually not in, but you should know that I'm the youngest of 5. My eldest sister was 21, 22 when all of this happened, and we just kind of stuck together and raised ourselves. And so I'm incredibly close with them, and they were the first people I kind of reached out to when I began this journey. They were the most immediate, and they knew my parents the best, and they remembered my parents. So the next clip I'm going to show you, my cousin, also on my mother's side, she lives in Orange County. And her parents were visiting. She just had a child whom you're gonna meet in the clip. But her parents were visiting, and I kind of took advantage of the opportunity to go over there and interview them. I always knew my uncle. He's also suffered from schizophrenia, but aside from that fact, I really had no idea about the details or how he lived his life or what his family life was like. And some of that stuff we kind of dig into here, which is this clip is probably going to be closer towards the end of the film. It involves some pretty serious revelations. So without anything else.
Who's that?
My cousin Gitu just had a baby, and her family's visiting from India. Her father has suffered from schizophrenia for as long as I've known. I wanted to understand what their experience was like. You guys can interview me as well.
Yeah. आपको उससे कुछ पूछना है?
तुम्हें तुम्हारी मम्मी के बारे में क्या याद है?
What do you remember about your mom?
I remember she was really very nice. She was really kind. But then sometimes she would be very cold and withdrawn. And I think that was the illness. She would just be very catatonic. And she would sleep a lot. And it was almost like being alone, being around her, because she wouldn't really respond. And so it was very confusing. It was always, one or the other. You didn't know what to expect. And it was scary. And Shashi Mami, what was your experience like?
Worst experience to marry him. Because he is paranoid schizophrenic patient and they are cheater. And जो बात सही है वही बोलनी चाहिए.
Yeah, their parents didn't tell their parents that he's sick. He already sick before marriage. He has this disease before the marriage.
Patient
Did they know?
Yeah. Everybody know.
Can you, if you're comfortable, can you tell us how did they knew what happened?
He was sick slowly, but nobody take care. But when he got sick a lot, when he got the attack, then Kamal Mamaji took him to the doctor.
And what did the doctor say?
Doctor ने क्या बोला?
Marry him, she's okay.
जबरदस्ती झूठ क्यों
नहीं,
बोलते हो?
सही बात।
नहीं, ये
ऐसा
बोला।
कोई कह ही नहीं सकता. वो कहता है कौन सा डॉक्टर है जो ऐसे बोला है. जबरदस्ती तुम बोला मत करो फालतू की झूठ. वो झूठ बोलते
तो
हैं,
डॉक्टर
मरना है ऐसे.
ने बोला होगा तभी.
मेंटल बीमार का कभी डॉक्टर नहीं बोलेगा कि इसकी शादी करो. वो 4 जनों की जिंदगी खराब करेगा क्या?
If you are sick mentally, right? So never ever get married, right? Because your life is disturbed and your wife's life is disturbed and your kid's life is disturbed, right? So that's what she's saying.
राजू मामा ने तो खुद ने 4 बार सुसाइड कर लिया.
Papa, how many times you committed? 1?
4.
2-3 times.
2-3 times.
The life struggle is not able to do. This बीमारी is that type of this.
This sickness.
स्ट्रेस लगता है उसके फिर तो पागल ही हो जाता.
Yeah. Do you think this has kind of always been something that our family has had to deal with, or is this just kind of a more immediate kind of problem?
वो पूछ रहा है कि आपकी फैमिली में किसी और को भी हुआ, कोई सफर किया है इस सिकनेस से?
सबके लिए डॉक्टर साहब.
Kamal Mama ji. You know that Kamal Mama ji also committed suicide.
No.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I mean, I knew he died. I didn't know
No, he committed suicide.
Okay, I need to hear this story.
Oh, है ना, उन्होंने suicide ही commit किया था ना?
Tell me,
So he's saying Vittal Mama told him that he was also sick. He also got some shots. In the last days when he died, he committed suicide. He was sick.
Do you ever think about your own health, your own mind? No, because one thing I'll share with you, I've had experiences with some pretty serious depression, and you know, I don't know. I just when I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, I really spent a lot of time really concerned about those kinds of things. And also concerned about my siblings and their mental health as well. Is that something that you've ever thought about?
I'm the kind of person I always live happy, and you know the depression and these all things. I don't have any this type of thing.
Do you ever worry about, or what do you think about your Adi and Ara of your children? Do you think they're going to be pretty okay?
Yeah.
It's not a concern.
No. They are so intelligent, so smart. Adi is so smart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has a mind more than his age.
Sure.
So,
See? So you have also 50 minutes. But how about you can do 2 pages and go?
Hi!
So yeah, this is the clip where, this is kind of the moment in the journey as well as in the film where, you know, I kind of realized that this is way bigger than just my immediate family or my family. This is something that is just pernicious and silenced, and it's just all over the place. And you know, in making this documentary, the more people I talk to, the more I realize that there are a lot of these stories in the world. There are a lot of these stories in our community and in the public at large. So it kind of gave me a sense of urgency, a sense that you know, I really needed to tell this story to kind of, you know, open up conversations like the one we're about to have.